Good morning, everyone. We're just waiting for a few more people to show up. Right now, we're up to about 60 people. Gareth, are you online?
Yes, I am indeed.
Okay, so you can hear me clearly? So
yes.
If we could just get a show of hands from everyone, if you are on, I just want to get a sense of how many people we're reaching. Okay, well, Alex is seeing us, or hearing us. We have a few people. Okay, they're starting to pop up now. Okay, it seems like everyone is, we're getting through to everyone. That's good. Hi, Jeff. Where are we out of time? 8:20, 8:35. Okay, we're just going to give it a couple more minutes and we're about to start.
So when we get to these slides, they're all built, right? So I'm going to get you to stop. I did it 9 times.
Yeah.
Exactly. Stop.
Sure.
At that point, we just reach over and take over the mouse control. Just do click to get to the right thing.
Sure.
Is it going to be well, maybe rather than shift control, it might be easier just to mostly on over. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll just turn it this way again.
Okay.
Okay, we're up to 68. So let's give it a start here. Okay, good morning from Ottawa, Canada, and good evening from Sydney, Australia. And we'd like to thank everyone and all the participants around the globe, Canadians and non-Canadians. Everyone's welcome. We'd like to thank Career Coaching International for partnering with us on this important topic, and we'd like to thank the Canadian Expat Association for advertising our event, as well as a few others, including portablecareer.net. And especially we'd like to thank the members of Spouse Without Borders for making this happen. I'd like to just explain for those of you what webinars are about, if you haven't attended before, the format. Tim and I will be presenting together in Ottawa, with Gareth joining us from Sydney, Australia. The webinar will be 1 hour, including a little time for the Q&A at the end. We may go a little beyond the 1 hour at the end for additional questions for those of you who have time. For those of you who have not taken part in the webinar, it is interactive. You can type in a question and respond, and we'll respond to the questions. We'll do our best to answer the presentation, but we'll do it at the end. So feel free to raise your questions as they arise. If you have any challenges with your access, you should have received a number to call in your region or country. This being our first webinar, we want to hear back from you with your comments. So I guess first of all, we'll start with introductions of our team. So Tim, do you want to take it?
Sure. Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where in the world you are. My name's Tim Reagan, business engineer. Basically, I've got about 20 years in senior management with global companies, international placements, and including family and expat disruptions and assignments. So I somewhat know what you're all going through. I'm fascinated sort of with the changing world of work. From a CCI perspective, I'm the owner of the business, and since about 2004, CCI and their roster of 7 career and business coaches have worked with well over 250 to 300 clients. And really what we do is we help people get clarity on their goals and objectives, and then help them find career roles that really fit them.
Gareth, do you want to introduce yourself in Sydney?
Yeah, sure. Well, a very early good morning from Sydney in New South Wales. As the name might actually guess, I am Welsh. I'm from Wales. My name is Gareth Jones. And I left Wales about 20 years ago, and worked and lived in London, in the UK, for about 7 years in the energy and infrastructure sector. And that work line actually took me to job opportunities around the globe, which also included a short assignment in Kazakhstan and a fairly large move to Taipei as a solo person. But it was in Taiwan where I met my future wife, and of course she was Canadian and working for Foreign Affairs Canada. We did a cross-posting from Taipei to Boston in the USA, and we did a 4-year assignment there. And about halfway through our assignment there, our son was born. Then we moved to Ottawa in 2009, and I was moving into Ottawa for my first time as a permanent resident of Canada, so dealing with the changes with that. And we just actually moved in the last 3 weeks into Sydney, and we're experiencing the challenges and the rewards around moving a family to New South Wales.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. And my name is Jan2013. I consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm a father of 3 boys. I'm an accompanying spouse, husband, and partner to a Foreign Service officer, also with the Department of Foreign Affairs, with postings in Jakarta, Singapore, and Havana. We're now living back in Ottawa. I have 20 years of experience in the exhibit and event management industry with a multinational company and as an independent. I'm also the owner of a startup adventure travel company, and I'm the founder of Spouses Without Borders. So today we're going to try and cover as quickly as we can within an hour. Basically, we're going to talk about what the accompanying spouse is in today's world. I'm going to give you a little bit of an outline of what Spouses Without Borders is about. By spouses, for spouses. We're going to share some experiences of some success stories and some challenges. And then we're going to pass it over to Tim, and he's going to help with choosing a career, finding employment. Very important personal branding and identity of the accompanying spouse. And then, of course, the effective job search. And then Tim's going to explain to us exactly what the role of a career coach is. And then Gareth is going to follow up because he's just arrived in Sydney on a new posting, so he has the latest with the checklist and best practices. And then we've also started to create a list of resources, both for overseas and Canadian assignments. And this is something that we want to develop over time and with your help. So please send us your ideas. We've already received some great ideas. And then we're going to wrap up with the Q&A. So I'm just going to give you a bit of a rundown of what creating a flexible career for an accompanying spouse for overseas assignments and in Canada is about. The decision to follow and support the career path of a partner who has accepted for an assignment has a financial and social impact on the accompanying spouse. The decision to put one's career on hold has many implications. We believe it is important for both the spouse and the employee to be as informed as possible, as the decision will have a lasting influence on the relationship and, even more importantly, the identity of the spouse. In this webinar, we hope to provide you with an understanding of what it is like for an accompanying spouse who adjusts their career path to face the new challenges, open new doors, and discover new worlds while supporting their partner, the foreign assigned employee. We will provide you with some tools, share some experiences, and suggest resources to help you in your journey. We very much welcome your comments and your ideas. So what is the accompanying spouse? After much discussion, we agreed that the typical accompanying spouse is not typical at all, and our demographic is as diverse as the population of Canada. Not all spouses are determined to develop their career path in the same fashion. Experiences of working overseas range from short-term contracts with an embassy, for example, starting a business, working from a remote office, volunteering, taking a leave of absence, furthering their education, and raising children. Each foreign assignment presents different challenges and opportunities. Circumstances have changed what they were a generation ago. Today, the accompanying spouse can be male, female, same gender, foreign-born, and the levels of education vary, as do the professions, everything from doctors, journalists, construction contractors, homemakers, lawyers, photographers, engineers, artists, and entrepreneurs. the typical challenges, I was just back on there, I've listed them. I guess you would have had a chance to read most of them, but there's some key ones there, but there's a whole list of other ones that we haven't put on there. You'll see on the bottom one, the loss of identity is the crucial one. And that's something that Tim is going to be touching on a little later. So I'm going to get into what Spouses Without Borders is about, because we are brand new. This is an idea that basically came to me after a conversation with my sister-in-law, who is in human resources. And I started talking to a few other spouses, and they said, this is a good idea. Then I met Gareth over a coffee. He was working on Elgin Street in Ottawa, and it was as if we had the same track without having met. And so we agreed to join forces and create an organization, and we're calling it Spouses Without Borders. And our mission is to help our members have positive and rewarding experiences when they are posted abroad and or returning to Canada. And that implies more than just career development. There's many other aspects to this. So what do we do, or who are we? We are a team of accompanying spouses, growing in numbers. Collectively, we have a wealth of knowledge and experience of living overseas. We come from a wide range of cultural backgrounds, professions, languages, and education. We see an opportunity to help Canadian families posted abroad and help find solutions to some of the challenges faced by government departments, private sector, and multinational companies. For the most part, Spouses Without Borders acts as a platform for advocacy and education. Like most organizations, we draw upon the efforts and talents of our membership, and we encourage like-minded groups such as the Canadian Expat Association and other organizations and individuals from around the world to work together to achieve our goals. We believe that an independent and self-financed organization can provide valuable support to an organization in both public and private sectors, as well as to its membership. Spouses Without Borders aims to build strong relationships with federal departments and organizations by offering services that complement an organization's existing support, and by identifying and filling existing gaps. We believe Spouses Without Borders can provide positive and effective results. We are mapping out our strategies and recruiting new members, and we will be initiating programs that we can continue to present our spousal initiatives to public and private sector organizations. If you visit our website, which is www.spouseswithoutborders.com, you can read our goals and objectives. And basically, we're a forum where you can share and exchange ideas. We want to be able to identify and address issues and challenges that we face as an organization. We want to seek solutions to new and long-standing challenges, which a lot of us are very familiar with. We want to advocate for policies and regulatory climate that allow our members to live overseas without being penalized for not having a permanent and physical address in Canada. And we want to stay relevant with current issues and maintain a corporate memory. And we want to build and promote the profile of our members' career development. We want to be recognized as the authority on spousal issues, and we want to build a strong communications platform. So I'm going to get into some of the examples that we've discussed with some of our members. And one of the key ones that has really resurfaced many times is a sense of being undervalued. And this comes especially when you are repatriated. In Judy's case, living in Toronto, when she got back, she didn't feel like she could use her international experience, although it was valuable and she learned a lot. She could have applied it to many Canadian companies. They didn't see that, and so they only saw her previous Canadian experience and used that. Luckily, Judy is perseverant, and she found something. The second example is a lack of flexibility in an organization. And this is a personal experience that I faced along with my wife. I had an opportunity when I was living in Singapore where I landed a contract that could have turned into a full-time career position with a German company in my field of expertise and at my level. And at the same time, my wife, an FSO, a Foreign Service Officer, received a promotion that was much sought after. And she ended up, for a number of reasons, but including my employment opportunity, she declined the promotion. The third example is a friend of mine, Gonan, who's a new Canadian from Israel, And he's recently arrived with his wife and their young child in Canada. And he really looks at Canada as a new posting because he's not familiar with the culture and the systems and everything else. And there's really no support given, although it's starting to come, and we'll get into that a little later. Now, for the experiences of successes, which there are many of them as well, and I have personally seen successes. The first one, again, an ideal job created for a spouse. We saw at our last posting, Andy, a friend, who was hired by the U.S. interest section. The Canadian Embassy wasn't able to find a position for him, even though he has a very good background in IT. He was hired by the U.S. interest section and put to work teaching English to the Cuban staff. And then it was discovered by the head of their mission that this guy has IT background, and they created a position for him. So that's a perfect example of a success story. Second one is a new member, Jay, who is on a posting in Stockholm with his partner, and he was able to extend a contract with Adobe. And even though he moved to Stockholm. So that's an excellent example where an organization is willing to be a little flexible. And the third one is reinventing and repackaging. I'm going to pass it over to Gareth because it's his personal example.
Yeah, sure, Tony. So I guess my key example is in Boston during our term at Boston. I think the key message is to never turn down a opportunity at the consulate or the High Commission or the embassy. So I did a short gig or assignment at the Consul General in Boston back in '96, and it was only a short contract. Anyway, it was a stepping stone for my work in the private sector, and due to the financial turndown in North America, I got laid off in 2009, which the timing worked out well because we were due to relocate to Ottawa summer 2009. But I did got invited to do another short-term assignment at the consulate, and that was to focus on the renewable energy sector and the infrastructure sector. And that assignment was a local assignment focusing on companies in New England and finding them opportunities in Canada. So it was a very interesting experience, but it really played up well during our move back to Ottawa, where I was a new Canadian permanent resident, treating it also as a new posting, if you may. But that experience at the consulate in Boston helped me gain a 6-month opportunity at the global headquarters at Foreign Affairs to undertake a similar assignment, but on a global basis. So that was a good assignment for me to be introduced to the work environment in Ottawa and to understand the key contacts and the lay of the land. And through that assignment, I had a very sort of successful a recent work assignment with the city of Ottawa on their light rail project. So I think the key message is, if you do see an assignment at the consulate or at your post, never say no, and take it on, because it will take you to other places.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. We're going to pass it over to Tim now, and he's going to walk us through all about career considerations and career coaching.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Anthony. Just before, just as a sort of an intro, I just wanted to mention my approach here is I'm going to be talking generally about observations about career search that we've seen across our multitude of of clients over the years. And then I'm going to bring out the more specific case of the expat and the accompanying spouse issue that we're talking about here. So generally, I want to leave a bit of a picture of how career search works and the things that we've learned about it, and then make it applicable to your situations. So specifically, we're going to talk about what we see as success, which is the combination of understanding your brand and then also understanding the networking of how to go out and make make your wishes come true, if you will. And so what I want to start with first is what we're very familiar with if we just think about the way that generally we think about finding work. And that is what you see before you is the pretty traditional approach that says, I see a posted ad, Workopolis, in a company bulletin board, wherever I see it, I sort of look at it and I say, hey, yeah, that might be a good fit. Maybe I should apply for that. That's the pretty standard approach that most everybody uses. And here's really what's happening at the top end of the person that is applying through that process. We look at the ad and we sort of say, yeah, I could do that. And of course, we're usually pretty capable and we can do a number of different things. What we generally then recognize is that the game is to actually fit with what that person is looking for in the posted ad, because of course that's how we're going to get through the next process, which is the interviewing process. So what we tend to do is we tend to then take our resume and our cover letter and make a bunch of adjustments so that it parrots back exactly what they're looking for in the organization. And as we go through that, and again, in the moment we feel particularly productive because we spent a couple of hours and we've sent off 1 or 2 applications, and we've kind of convinced ourselves in the process that I'm a great fit for that role. This is going to be terrific. And we keep doing that, and we don't hear much back, and we don't hear much back, and now we start to have the nagging doubts. Why haven't I heard back yet? Maybe I'm not quite the rock star that I thought I was. So what we tend to do then is we tend to get to panic a little bit and open up our search filters even more, and we start to apply for jobs which are even less of a sort of a good fit and not really all that interesting to us. But now we're starting to get concerned. Maybe nobody's really going to hire me. I better sort of broaden the search parameters. And what we tend to do then is get ourselves very, very discouraged. The challenge that I've seen when I work with clients is that people who are following this process think that it's about them. We take this process, we internalize it because, of course, this is our lives, these are our jobs, these are the things we want to be doing, and we now, we now start to wear this as personal failure. What I want to illustrate here is, in fact, actually, it's a fundamentally broken process. What's happening is you are only one of probably 300 to 400 people that are actually responding to that ad, and every single person is using the same approach, which is I better customize my response to what the ad says. So internal to the organization, some poor person is going through a whole bunch of submissions, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of submissions, and how do I, in the allotted time, sort through these and get the best 5? Here's the other rub. The person that's doing that generally is not the most senior person, and almost never is the actual hiring manager. So the hiring manager that has the need has given some sort of a 5 to 10 minute briefing to some person who may in turn have then briefed someone else who's now going to sort through all of these resumes. And we can throw some sorting software at it, we can throw various filtering capabilities, but generally that's what the process looks like. So now we've got probably a junior person going through hundreds and hundreds of resumes about a job that they don't really know that much about, certainly not first-hand knowledge, and trying to come up with 5 or 10 people that we're going to interview. Of course, what tends to happen to get through it in the time allotted is we'll start to now add some arbitrary search criteria. I don't like 3-page resumes. These are out. This person has a typo on the page 1. That's out. I can't pronounce this person's name. I'm getting rid of that. I don't like colored paper. It doesn't really matter. It's when you think about it from their selection process, I've got 300 to 400 resumes to choose from. I need to find 5 to 10 that fit the criteria. I can probably eliminate an awful lot of these. So now we've got a somewhat arbitrary selection process. We then go through the interviewing. We take those 5 to 10 people. We interview them. Those are the only people, by the way, that are going to hear back from the organization. Everyone else has been told at the front end, by the way, when you apply for this job, we will only get back to you if you're one of our selected candidates. So you've already been told that 395 of the 400 people are not going to get a response. And again, that adds to the sense of delusionment and the disappointment of the job seekers. So now finally we go through the interviewing process. We select one of those people. We offer them the job. Everything's great. here's the most interesting part of this story, is the failure rate for this process, and this is why I say it's a fundamentally broken process, is that 47% of those people we hire will leave those jobs within the first 12 to 18 months, and those people are generally not being promoted through the ranks, they're leaving the organization. And when you talk to either side of those people, either the people that have chosen to leave or the organizations that have chosen to ask them to leave, the same comment comes out time and time again, which is they didn't fit the role. And in fact, HR organizations have a statement for that, which is we hire for skills and we fire for fit. So think of it this way, from a process perspective, this has a failure rate of almost 50%. And it's got a disappointment rate of, let's say, 399 out of 400 people that apply. So when you think about that, again, if you take this personally and it starts to drive you a bit insane, it's because the process is broken. Unfortunately, most of us don't understand that. So let's talk about that fit issue. We said 50% failure rate, and the biggest reason for that is given by either participant is I wasn't the right fit, or he or she wasn't the right fit. What do we mean by fit? When we drill into that, the closest that we can sort of come up is it's about personality. And the point here is to say that everybody is wired a little bit differently. We're all hardwired to look at things in certain ways. And our personality is, is sort of part of our DNA, and it's just the way we look at the world, and it's the way we like to work things through. So I want to talk briefly about a personality profiling tool that we use. PAVF is how we term it. And it aligns very well with other things, Myers-Briggs, colors, descriptors. There's a lot of different personality tools out there. This one in particular we like because it's oriented around describing the world of work. Okay? And what I want you to do is listen to my descriptions, and I'll spend about 5 minutes on this slide. And then I'd like you each to send in a little message with the 1 or 2 letters that you think best represents you. Okay? So, a PA or a PV or VF. Generally, as a protocol, we do them in the order of PAVF. So 1 or 2 letters which best describe you, and let me now give you the descriptions. A couple of ground rules first. We all have all 4 of these. We have them in different weightings. We generally tend to be dominant in 1 or 2. We could be dominant in 3, but by definition, we can't be dominant in all 4. Okay? So if you think about 100% of your personality, it's going to be split somehow across these 4, generally with 1 or 2 being dominant. These are how we're hardwired, and this generally doesn't change over time. We can train ourselves to be more comfortable in an area that is not our strength, but generally our strengths are our strengths, and they don't change over time. Okay? So let me describe these 4: producer, analyzer, visionary, friend. Producer very much is what we said, results oriented. The producer focuses on the what. These are people that like to be busy at all times. They generally will keep sort of a to-do list and love to stroke things off of their to-do list. A conversation with a producer having with their manager would sound something like this if they could say this. Please tell me what it is you want me to do, then get the heck out of my way and let me get on with it. If I'm not coming back to you for more work, it's because I'm busied out doing what you've given me. When I have finished that, I will immediately come back to you and look for more work. Please do not keep me idle, because I don't do idle very well at all. And if you starve me of work, I will either steal it from my coworkers, I will make it up, or I will bring it from home, because I must be kept busy. The focus again here is on the what. Tell me what to do, get out of my way, let me get on with it. Analyzer is a very different creature. Analyzer is very detail-oriented, somewhat cautious in terms of wants to really understand everything through and through before they commit and before they move forward. in many respects, the analyzer wiring says there is a right way and a wrong way to do things, and hence, because there is a right way and a wrong way, clearly I should do things, and all people should do things the right way. So they focus more on conversations about the how. How do you want this done? How are we going to accomplish these things? Very much process, structure, structured thinking, if you will. We often will call in organizations, especially in startups, technology startup companies, these are the adult supervision, because they tend to bring the controls and processes in place that make things function in a predictable fashion. The visionary, V, is almost the flip side of the analyzer, in that while the analyzer is focused very much at the detail level, the visionary tends to operate at the 50,000-foot level, where they can connect the dots and everything is connectable. It is a world of possibilities. It's about making things better. It's about doing things differently. It's about improving things. So they tend to ask the when and the why questions. Why are we doing it? Why are we doing it this way? Couldn't we improve on doing this? Those are wonderful conversations to have in certain parts of the organizations. In other parts of the organizations, they frustrate the heck out of producers and analyzers that want to get on with the work. The visionaries, so then, are detail people, are high-level thinkers, if you will, and to them everything is possible. So they're very much ideas people, and they very much are sort of why are we doing this, why or why not kinds of questions. The friend is very much a people orientation. So we use words often to describe these people as collaborative, consensus. We do tend to think of them as friendly, but this is not about their person. This is not about whether they like people or not. It's about that they see people as central to work, and that work exists for and by people, and the conversations that they need to have are who's involved, who do we need to bring on board. So it's all about sort of pulling people together to accomplish things moving forward. So those are the P, A, V, and F. And again, none is better or worse. None are right or wrong. They are all just the way we are. We all have elements of all of those in us, but we tend to be dominant in one or two. And the key here is, and this is where we get to the fit issue, is that I need to find things that not only fit my personality for me to be happy, my personality has to fit in to the broader team or the organization where I'm working. Because, for instance, if I'm working in an organization that is very, let's say, analyzer-based, so it's a very detailed, structured, there's a right way and a wrong way to do absolutely everything, and I'm a bit of a chaotic visionary that loves to rock the boat, if you will, or challenge the status quo, and I'm continually asking why, that's going to disrupt the workflow, and that's going to be, that's going to possibly be a cause of disruption. Now, it can be used very effectively if the point is I need somebody to come in and shake things up and try to help us figure out different ways to do things. So there are, again, no right or wrong with these personalities. They are just what's the right, what's the right fit with the organization and the group at that time. So that's so at this point, hopefully with that description, you could send in, just quickly type in the 1 or 2 letters that you think both are the strongest indicators of your personality. So let me now shift gears and talk about how the jobs really happen. We looked at the what I call the tip of the iceberg and sort of the posted process. Here's how jobs really happen. And again, anybody who's been in an organization, I think, will sort of nod their heads and say, yep, that sounds about how we do things here. And this is kind of the unwritten process. So first of all, there is, there's the ask, which is, I recognize a need, I go to my manager and I say, hey, we need to get a new, let's say, junior product or project manager to manage this new project that has just been thrown on our plates. Typically, the response now from the manager is, no, it's not in the budget. Okay, I think we've all lived through that. So at this point, the contention is we're not going to put a great deal of time into structuring the job description for this mythical person that I've already been told I'm not going to get. So really what I want to do is I want to throw the monkey on my boss's back. So I'm going to throw a 3-line email out there and say, as we talked about, we're looking for a junior project manager. And that's pretty much it. I've now been told that I better, ignore that. It's not going to happen. I'll just get back to coping through things. Then what happens is there's a time gap typically, and maybe during this time gap I'm going back to my manager and from time to time prodding them a little bit and saying, hey, will we get that project manager I mentioned to you a month ago? And then at some point, some magic happened somewhere, don't know what happened, but the manager comes back and says, hey, good news, your headcount's been approved, now you better get it filled before the budget freezes up. And so suddenly this has gone from a complete pipe dream that I'm spending no time at all on to great news, but now it's my top priority to fill the position before the budget freezes. It's at this point that most people say, well, okay, so I go down to HR and I fill in the 12-page job description questionnaire. And our contention is no, absolutely, that's not what happens. The first thing that anybody does is they sit there and say, who do I know that would fill that role? And if I've got some candidate in mind, if there's somebody I know that I think is a good fit, I'm going to at least bring them in so I can sort of talk to them, or I'm going to have a conversation with them and start to feel them out. If I don't know anybody, or in addition to whoever I think might be a good fit, I'll probably now throw it out to my trusted network, which could be a few coworkers, may well be my spouse, it may be my next door neighbor, it may be people on my hockey team. But now I'm going to say, hey, we need a project manager. Do you know of anybody? I'm looking for some good candidates. And it's at this point that the feedback you get is, well, what exactly are you looking for? You haven't told me anything yet. Oh, you're right. I haven't really described that. So let me now add a little bit more meat to the bones, if you will. So we're looking for, junior is probably 2 to 3 years experience. They really should know these languages. This is probably important in terms of their environment. So now I've loaded up my network with a bit of a vision or a bit of a description of the kind of person I'm looking for. Okay? It's at this point that I'm now going to go and engage HR. And here's the interesting part of this. HR now is going to say, great, we've got a standardized process for how we do this. So here's our 12-page job description questionnaire. We'll work through this and we'll codify the level this job exists at, et cetera, et cetera. At this point, if you don't have any candidates in mind, you're going to let HR codify it the way that HR wants to codify it. So they're going to talk to you and they're going to say, well, okay, you're really talking about a project manager level 3. And you're going to say, sure, I don't know, that's a language I don't understand, so okay, fine. If instead, though, you have a candidate in mind, you're going to ask a few more questions. So they're going to say, this is a project manager level 3, and you're going to say, well, what's level 3 mean? Oh, well, that's 5 years experience. And you realize that the person you've been talking to and a person that you'd like to be considered actively for the job has only 3 years experience. You're going to now spend some time to talk HR down to 3 years as their description rather than 5 years. In the same way, if HR is saying that everybody that we hire must be a PMP certified, project management professional, if you know that the candidate that you're interested in is not a PMP, you're going to work on HR to inject the word or equivalent, and you're going to get them to agree that equivalent is 3 years hands-on experience. So in this way, you're basically going to help design the job description that gets posted ultimately around your candidate. Okay? This is important because now what you're going to do when you're finished with HR, you're going to do two things. The first is you're going to go back to your desk, you're going to phone the candidate that you have in mind, and you're going to say, we formally posted the job, you please apply for this job. The second phone call you're going to make is to HR saying, by the way, so-and-so is going to be applying for this job. I'd like them to be considered for an interview. Now, at this point, you are not guaranteeing anybody the job. You're not breaking any of the process steps, but what you are doing is changing the odds significantly for that candidate. So instead of it being their job, instead of them trying to win the job in a blind competition of 400 people, it's actually now their job to lose. They're going to get streamlined through to the interviewing process. They've already met you, they know you, they like you. Okay, so that's how the jobs really happen. And that sort of brings us back to bringing that into line. Is there's two things that we sort of focus our clients on in terms of how to go out and make this happen. And the first is the brand. How is it you are describing yourself? And this is where the work that we did on the personality comes through. What's your story? And I'll have another slide about that. But this is where, and I believe that Gareth had made an example of reinventing and repackaging. It's all about the package you choose to package yourself up in and the stories you tell to support that packaging. The second part is what we call landing, which the land process, which is really going out and finding and making the perfect role. So doing very much those things that I was just talking about through information meetings and things like that. And there's two things just I want to mention in the land process which are important. And I've called them there trust the force. 6 degrees of separation and chaos theory. In a nutshell, chaos theory says, look, everybody is interconnected. We just don't know how. Everything in the world is interconnected. We don't know how. 6 degrees of separation says a mathematical proof, more or less, that says because we all know on average about 150 people, if I take that to the power of 6, I more than cover off the 7 billion people on the planet. So we're only 6 connections at most away from anybody that we want to meet, or any, in this case, any sort of role that would be a perfect role. And there's only one small problem there, is I don't know which 6 conversations I need to have. So that, combined with chaos theory, says go out, put your message out there to as broad an audience as you can, be as clear as you can in terms of your brand, and ultimately opportunities are going to show up. So let me spend just another minute or so on the brand process, which is what we said, developing real clarity about what you're wired to do and what you're passionate about. And what we argue is that there's a sweet spot that we all are sort of, or have the ability to get to as we develop ourselves and as we gain clarity over the years. And that sweet spot is where your personality, which is kind of a hardwired feature that we talked about before, your education and experiences, and ultimately your interests, values, and beliefs all actually overlap. When you're working in areas that you're in your sweet spot, everything feels great. It aligns with how you like to do things and how you think about things in terms of personality. You're leveraging your experiences in your education, and ultimately you're doing something that you believe in and that interests you and aligns with your values. That's not an easy spot to get to, but if we continue to focus on how do we get there, there are lots of things we can do and lots of reflection activities to kind of hone us in over the time. And again, I'd go back to what Gareth had said about the reinventing and repackaging experience. This is really what it's about. A key to it is to be very authentic and not to present yourself as something different than what you really are, because that's where you get misfits in the process and where you end up in roles that are not very good fits. I won't talk much about the landing process. This is really the role of information meetings, and the whole point here is to say that the more that you are out there putting your message out there, leaving an imprint, the more you're reinforcing this condition, and it's the line that I put at the bottom of the slide here. Many people will say, you know, it's just not fair because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I like to take it one step further and say it's not really what you know or who you know. It's about who knows you and what they know about you. So if you're putting a consistent message out there to your network and building your network and messaging that, you know, you're a great, you love solving, you love jumping into chaotic situations and adding a level of control, then, you know, that's what people are going to remember about you and pass that message on through their network, through the 6 degrees of separation and the chaos theory that we talked about. So that's kind of how you start to leave your imprint on the marketplace. So sort of in summary, and again, this is the summary of a generic process. This is what we tell all of our clients, is you need to get clear about what it is that you care about, comfortable with expressing that with authenticity. You need to be very comfortable knocking on doors to talk with real people. And again, you can e-knock also in terms of LinkedIn and the networking tools. But essentially, ultimately, people hire people that they know and that they like and that they trust. And ultimately, there is a personal element that needs to be connected to. And then it's the discipline to what I say, lather, rinse, and repeat. Continue, build your network, keep going out there, wake up every day, make a couple of calls. What we say here is that by doing this, what you're starting to do now is really tune your filter around the opportunities that are important to you, and those opportunities, not surprisingly, start to show up. So let me try to bring this all home now and say, how is this relevant to your particular situation? And I'm arguing that your situation is a specific case of this general case of clarity and networking. Clearly, it's more, in many respects, you've added a level of complexity because you're probably talking about moving continents. You're talking about moving into an environment where you probably don't already have a ready network. There may be regulatory hurdles to jump. There may be educational and cultural hurdles, language hurdles. So, not to take away from the challenge. It's a big challenge. However, by following this approach, you can still do it in a somewhat structured and intelligent manner. So, specific to your upcoming assignment, how clear are you about who you are, the PAVF discussion, but more importantly, what is it you care about? What are you trying to accomplish in this next phase? What do you need to survive and thrive in your new location? And that can be very, very different. For some people, it may be career continuity. For some people, it may be the cultural experience. Some people, it may be strictly about family and family settling in and developing a network. It could be about volunteering. So all of those, I've been saying career throughout, but use all of those terms as kind of equivalent to career. Family, volunteer, cultural. What is it that is really important to you in this next phase, and how clear about it are you, and can you develop that clarity? As you develop the clarity, how comfortable are you with putting it out there and expressing that to people around you and going out and saying, this is what I'm really looking for, this is what's important to me. That's the way that those people will be able to start helping you find that. Clearly then the knocking, and here I've added the e-door element, is really important. And the more proactive that you can do this before actually jumping onto the new continent, and especially nowadays with tools like LinkedIn and Facebook, and there's a lot we can do to project ourselves into the new environment and start to pre-build your network so that when you arrive, you now have at least contacts that you can meet up with and have coffee and pick up your conversations with them. That's a lot easier if you've already set the groundwork while you're operating in your home country, rather than actually arriving, and suddenly saying, okay, I'm going to pull out the phone book and build my new network from the ground up when I'm there. So use as many of the tools as you can while you're here, wherever here might be, as you think about the next place. And then ultimately, the final point is really the discipline piece. It says, how do I get up every day, keep doing my homework, keep focusing on this, keep building the network? And really, again, it's about building your resource base, and that's going to come out in further conversation. So to summarize, I think here's the various roles that a career coach can be helpful for. One is that we provide a very structured approach to helping you address those questions. So in terms of and this is not just us, but CCI, but this can be general career coaches, is hopefully they have a methodology and a structured approach for leading you through these things, helping you develop the plan and working the plan. The career coach can also take many forms in terms of either a level of objectivity, encouragement, compassion, sounding board. Occasionally we're utilized to sort of impose some extra discipline so that stuff gets done. That's especially important for procrastinators. Absolutely challenging your limiting beliefs. We all have limiting beliefs, and it's nice to have a third party that can sometimes challenge that and pull that out and say, well, Why are you saying those things about you? Here's the objective evidence that actually you're very capable at these kinds of things. And again, that sort of builds up the encouragement and the ability to sort of jump out there and put yourself out there. And then ultimately helping strategize about resources you can tap into. The point here is that, you know, if you're moving to a new location, the career coach can't necessarily doesn't necessarily have a network wherever it is that you're going, but they can certainly help strategize about how to tap into those resources. And again, a lot of that can be the LinkedIn, the Facebook. Have you thought about these organizations? There's a resource page that Anthony and Gareth have pulled together that starts to be those kinds of resources you can tap into. So in summary, I would say that the role of the career coach is extensive help and expertise on the branding piece, helping you get clear, and then certainly general support, encouragement, and the discipline to continue on with landing. So that's what I've got to say. Whoops, I'm sorry. So we do offer a free career assessment session if you are interested. Those are my email contacts and my phone number you can reach me at. We're ready and willing to help you if there's anything we can do to help you. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Tim. That was great. I just wanted to make a mention that I've had many discussions with other spouses that were career driven throughout the years, and it's also been my personal experience that I have hired career coaches throughout the years, and I think it's an excellent way because oftentimes you get derailed and you lose focus, and like Tim said, to have that individual that's objective and to give you as a cheerleader in your corner to help you throughout is I think is a very good service, and it really helps a lot. Okay, we're going to pass it over to Gareth now in Sydney because he just arrived. I think it's been 3 weeks or 4 weeks now, Gareth?
Yes, it's my third week. So our next slide over here is the checklist of the best practices that we've developed. So I won't go through all of those key points, but you can actually read them there on the screen and run. But I'll just do a quick summary of my key tools or the approaches, I guess. So I guess that we all know that moving to a new and a family through the process. If you're able to take some time off prior to the move, then that's a very beneficial approach, I guess. Another good tool or approach is to let your network know that you're going to move to XYZ. If you're working in an organization, talk to your colleague, said, hey, I'm about to move. Oh, yes, I heard. Well, hey, I've got another contact in that part of the world as well. So that will help you into the introductions. And I did get some good links through that approach during my current assignment with the city of Ottawa and my colleagues there. Another key thing, as Tim raised, is the branding. At the post as a new person in a way. I think a good approach is to work on your 30-second elevator pitch. So if you go into a new condo, you see a neighbor, so your neighbor asks you a question, so who are you, where about you from? So it's very useful to actually out of that 30 seconds, what is your key message? Another very useful tool which I've used in the past, certainly from moving from Taipei to Boston, was LinkedIn. There's various search facilities in LinkedIn where you can do, as I did, to search my past organizations which I work with in your new area. In Boston. One of the useful tools I've used, which is like a more person-to-person LinkedIn, is the Chamber of Commerce. When you do move in, try network, introduce yourself prior to moving, and engage with the Chamber of Commerce. And I just signed up for the Canadian Chamber of Commerce in New South Wales. I attended a luncheon event last week, exchanged some business cards, and I'm meeting with their regional director this week to play a role in that organization. And again, the key thing over here is to network, to meet new people face to face, and try and meet people. Do your coffee dates as you may, at least 2 or 3 times a week. Another quick thought before we close is make some business cards. In my current position in the 3rd week, I was able to carry on a remote basis from my work. It gives me a good 30 seconds. I've currently moved from Ottawa to Sydney, currently still working as a special advisor on this project, but I hope to be fully engaged in local work environment soon, kind of thing. So those are the key points, but some of the tools which I've used, certainly from moving from Taipei to Boston, Boston to Ottawa, and now Ottawa to Sydney, it's always good to take some time off, I think, and to actually develop your house into a home, and to support your partner through his or her assignment also, and to make sure that you do have. So back to you.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. That was great. And you touched on the final thing. Is I agree with you completely. Is taking some personal time, some time with the family to get set up, because we both talked about this before. Life is about balance. It's not just about career development. Yeah. It's about balance. The final slide, just before we get into the Q&As, we've started to receive from our members different ideas and some websites that will help, and we welcome more of this, so please feel free to send it to info@spouseswithoutborders.com. So we're starting to compile lists of resources in Canada, and one of the things I'll touch on is just the YMCA. I just spoke with one of our members who works there. Now he got a job there. And they have a great program for new Canadians, which is one of the biggest challenges. It's a culture shock for them coming into Canada, and there's no real support. And then you'll see the list of this is just a very small list of what's available for job search. And of course, we have career coaches in there, and you have your headhunters, which is always are great tools. The resources overseas, and Gareth touched on the Chamber of Commerce, which I think is an excellent idea. I've always personally sought out, even though my wife is with the embassy, I always sought out the international business community, not just the Canadian business community, and made my network, and then also got to know the local business community. So I've always made it a point to reach into different circles. And then again, you'll see the different links here. One of them I'll just touch on is portablecareer.net. One of our members at LinkedIn is Jeff. He's the Oz American. I think he just relocated back into the U.S. and he's creating a website to help people to create their own portable career. There's some publications that were passed by a member as well that I think are excellent, and one of them, the second one there, Jean-Marc Hatché, The Canadian Guide to Working and Living Overseas, was a book. It's about 3 inches thick that my girlfriend at the time, 20 years ago, bought for me when I first met her, not knowing that she was going to be asking me if I wanted to move overseas with her. And it's a great tool. I've contacted with Jean-Marc Hatché, and he's very interested in this project. So I think we're going to have some good partners on this. So we'd like to open up the floor, and over the course of this presentation, we have started to receive some questions. And so feel free as they come up. Oh, we have a nice comment, loud and clear. Thanks for the invitation. Just give me a second here. Okay, someone told us that they were PF.
All right. V. Oh, this is P and V, another P and F, another P and F. Okay. AF. Very interesting. Okay, so we're getting. So I would imagine the general statement I would make. We're just reviewing a number of the people who have sent in one or two of the personality letters. Here's the challenge, I think, for the V's amongst you. There's a sense of adventure and experimentation, and you get to do something new and change things. And I imagine that that being on a lot of these assignments is, as much as there's still a lot of work to do, for the V component, it's a cool adventure. It's something new. I get to immerse myself in some new thing, learn new things, meet new people. People that are predominantly A's probably find it very stressful because, again, it's all new and it takes a while to get back into the routines and the structure and the predictability of life. And again, a major element of an A personality is that that structure is the platform that they operate from, and that gives them a sense of sort of comfort in dealing with whatever else they have to deal with. So the challenge in a lot of these, but now, and sorry, just to continue that, the P's probably just are, again, want to be busy. So they want to fill their time. They want to get out and do things. These are general comments I'm saying.
Okay, I'd like to just read a question, and then Tim, it's presented to you.
Okay.
Thank you for your great presentation. My only comment to our career coach is that I think there's a difference between adjusting while being posted overseas and regular job seeker. Say in Canada, being posted, Canada has a limited time in that country, which, limited time in that country, which means an employer should agree to take a risk of losing a worker if he hires him in a year, in 2 years, or in 4 years, and hiring is at its cost. I think that's a great question, and it's something, I'll just touch on it a little bit. That's exactly one of the things that I couldn't be totally upfront sometimes when I was presenting my credentials and trying for a job, in that I was only there for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. The way I looked at it was, if I got in the door, then it would be up to me to prove my value. And for example, when the experience I had in Singapore, the whole goal was that after 2 years with this company, under living with the government of Canada under foreign affairs, would be covering all of our costs. After that time, I would be able to go back to that company and say, look, this is what I've achieved in these 2 years. Are you willing to put some money on the table now, because the government of Canada will no longer be supporting this, and the fact that it was on the ground was a benefit to them. So, Tim, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say is that in some respects that's what you are. You're coming to them and saying, I've got capacity. These are all the things I love doing. This is what I'm capable of doing. I'm going to be here for 2, 3, 4 years, whatever the time frame is. You certainly can't commit to longer than that. There's a couple of comments there. So one is actually that is part of what you are, and you're going to be looking for roles or projects that probably have a time frame that fits well within that. You may not, you don't want to suggest that you can commit to a 10-year engagement. Now, the flip side is I don't know of any employers that commit to 10-year engagements either from the employment side. So in many respects, our tenures with organizations, certainly in the private sector, are becoming shorter and shorter. And, in a 2 or 3 or 4 year period, there's an awful lot of value you can add if you're the right fit for my organization. So as much as possible, we would try to create that around a value conversation that says, here's what I can do for you, and here's the kinds of value I can bring to you. So I'd leave it at that. Again, every case is different, so we'd have to get into the specifics.
Okay, we've just run over by 10 minutes. We don't mind going on a little bit longer, but for those of you that have other appointments or whatever, then please feel free to just log off. One of the questions that was asked, are we going to be able to see this event after? We are recording it, and yes, it will be available. We have actually Martin Bloomfield is on this seminar. He's watching from Tanzania, and he's working on the website. And we're hoping to have our new website. We have a homepage right now, but we're hoping to have a new website in the coming year, and we will have all of these webinars recorded and available for broadcast at your leisure. I'm just going through a few more questions here. People have sent in their personality types. The other thing I'll ask too, we have a great number of people. What was the total here? We had up to 80 people attending today, and it was great. What I'd like to ask though is people just let us know where you're from. Are you Canadian? Are you a U.S. citizen? Or from another country, Europe, wherever, because this was passed around and circulated throughout a number of our networks. And one of the things about Spousals Without Borders is, yes, we are Canadian-centric, we are focusing, but it is our belief that there are a number of issues, and many issues, that are common to, it's a global issues, and one of them is career development. We have a lot of, when we're on postings, personally, I meet people from all over the planet, spouses, and they tell me the challenges that they face. So it is really a global problem or a challenge. If there's, so please feel free to just let us know where you are, where you're from. Gareth, is there anything you'd like to add? Oh, I think we might have lost Gareth. I think he went to bed. Okay. Well, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to send them to us. You can send them to us at info@spouseswithoutborders.com. Again, please join us on LinkedIn, because this is our discussion board. We exchange ideas. And actually, there's been some very good links. And actually, just yesterday, I was asked for Gareth's direct contact, because there's someone interested in the light rail system in Ottawa that's being developed. And so I don't know if it's a job opportunity or what, but potentially there's a good link there. Please become a member, and we'll keep you informed. And for now, we've created a database for our distribution. And we also appreciate, and I've received emails to volunteer your energy, and this is right across the board. We want to turn this into a bilingual, fully bilingual form, and so we have translators, and eventually we're going to create this where it's completely in French, and we have a completely in English version. And we will be posting this webinar again on the website, and it will be available in other places. But you can send me an email, and I'd be happy to share it with you. Again, www.spouseswithoutborders.com. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'd like to thank Gareth and Tim for their help. And this was it's been a great turnout. We're overwhelmed with the response and the attendance here. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for inviting us and for inviting me, and really enjoyed it. And any questions, again, if you want to, you've got my email in the presentation. Feel free to send me any comments, and I'll get back to you by email or call or phone you and talk through anything.